The Chancellor sat down with us for an exclusive conversation about her optimism for the new year, who's going to lead the Labour Party, and the age-old question, is Die Hard really a Christmas movie? What is your message to people at home? Should they be optimistic about 2026? Do they have something to look forward to?
I am optimistic about the year ahead and the economic prospects for the UK. And ordinary people in our country have got some really good stuff to look forward to that I was able to set out in the budget. So if you are a mum or dad with 3 or 4 children and you get universal credit, you will get support for your 3rd and 4th child and subsequent children in a way that wasn't the previous government. The Conservatives got rid of that support. That is substantial extra income for families, and the vast majority of those families are working families. But for every single household, you're going to get £150 off of your energy bill from April next year.
Have people noticed that enough?
Well, they'll notice it really when it's, they see less money coming out of their account to pay their gas and electricity bills. I think in April, with the increases in the national living wage and the national minimum wage, the increases in state pension because of the commitment to the triple lock, as well as those reductions in energy bills and freezes in prescriptions and rail fares will mean that people have got more money in their pockets. But probably most people's biggest expense is their mortgage or their rent. And the decision by the Bank of England today to cut interest rates to 3.75%, the 6th cut since I became Chancellor, the lowest interest rate now for nearly 3 years, and the fastest pace of interest rate reductions for 17 years.
People needed it though, right?
Yes, well, it's clearly welcome.
At the moment, energy prices are set to go up next year, at the beginning of next year. That big picture in terms of optimism, is 2026 going to be a better year? It feels like the Grinch came and stole all the kind of economic good cheer that this country had. Has Andrew Bailey given some of that back?
Look, I recognise that the last few years have been tough for people.
So have we turned a corner?
Our economy will grow this year, not as fast as I would like it, but probably faster than France, Italy, Japan, Canada and Germany. Would I like faster growth? Would I like there to be more job creation? Of course I would, which is why next year putting more money in people's pockets, increasing the national living wage so that people have got more money in their pockets, as well as those targeted actions on prescriptions, energy bills and rail fares, and at the same time continuing to really drive investment with these sort of partnerships with business through the National Wealth Fund, the British Business Bank. When I became Chancellor, I said the number one priority of this government is to grow the economy through stability, which comes from fiscal rules that we stick to, and you've seen that now in 2 budgets and in a spending review, from investment, and we're prioritising capital investment in energy projects, in road and rail, in digital, to create good jobs, but also to increase our productivity, and reforms like the planning bill, which received royal assent, I think, today, which will make it easier to get things built in our country again.
But it hasn't taken off in the way that you'd hope. Say planning you were just talking about. Actually, we haven't seen new decisions come through, new bills come through in the way that you want to have this 1.5 million homes. Do you worry about that?
Well, if you look at applications for housing starts, they are going up. And obviously there's going to be
but nowhere
a gap.
near to be able to build 300,000 homes
a year.
We're not close.
I am confident we're going to get to 300,000 homes
By
a year by the end of this Parliament. We've made that commitment to 1.5 million homes in this Parliament. But let me tell you why.
But then you need to get to the 300,000 much earlier than the last year of Parliament, don't you?
Yes, and we will. And let me tell you why. We've already made changes to the National Policy Planning Framework, but the bill that's is now an Act of Parliament, it's got royal assent, will mean that any building company that's putting putting in an application to build a new town, and we've signed off a number of new towns across the country, a new housing development near a station, or a power station, or a train line, or road infrastructure like Lower Thames Crossing. It will be quicker and cheaper to get those things built, and that is welcome, because we need to crack on and get building. You know, the last government, the default answer always seemed to be no. Our default answer is yes. We want the roads, we want the rail infrastructure, we want better energy security, which means we're investing in nuclear and solar and wind energy, and we want homes, because we know that too many people are not able to buy a home of their own and are living in insecure accommodation.
Okay, and we've gone straight into policy, and I haven't got to ask you the big questions of the day, like, what's your favourite Christmas movie? Where do you stand on Die Hard? Is it a Christmas movie?
I don't think I've ever seen Die Hard. I
No,
wouldn't say
how
it was
is that-
my Now,
how
my
is that
daughter
possible?
has asked if I will watch Love Actually with her. So I think we're going to be doing that over Christmas. Then I have to show her the number 10 staircase, and then she'll understand why it's so popular. Yeah, my family and me, we love Christmas, and really
What's a
looking forward to having
Reeves
some time off.
Christmas look like? What do you do? What's the main tradition you focus around?
So on Christmas Eve, we always go to a church service and just sing the Christmas carols. Then on Christmas Day itself, we have some family over, then more family on Boxing Day. I do the cooking. I just last weekend, very late actually, made my Christmas cake. It was late because the budget timing meant I didn't have much time in November or October to make my Christmas cake. But that's now made, and I'll be icing that on Christmas Eve as well. So I don't get that much time for cooking anymore. That's one of the downfalls of being Chancellor. But
Love Actually is going to play.
Christmas.
How does Keir Starmer stand up against Hugh Grant?
No comment.
You were talking about optimism at the beginning of our conversation. You're very optimistic today, but do you worry the tone was wrong in previous months? So many people complained that the budget, you know, the kind of wartime Britain speech, that everyone has to lean in speech, people were so anxious that they stopped spending, people stopped investing, people were taking money out of their savings. Did you get the tone right?
Well, look, it is a challenge to get that balance right. When I became Chancellor, you know, we inherited a massive mess in terms of the public finances, but also public services were on their knees. You know, ask any nurse in a hospital, ask any teacher at school, ask any parent with their kids at a state school. You know, things have been very, very challenging, and we needed to turn that around. And then, you know, this year with the budget, we had to contend with that review of productivity, which took £16 billion away from us in terms of tax revenues. So, you know, I'm Chancellor in the world as it is, not in necessarily the one I might like it to be, and I have to respond to those things. But all through that, we've kept that focus on growth. Now, we are forecast to be the second fastest growing economy in the G7 this year, but it's not enough.
There's going to be no growth in the back end of this year at all. That's what the Bank of England's...
Yeah, but if you look at the IMF forecasts, you know, the second fastest in the G7, I think next year they forecast will be third in the G7. But we need to do more. We need to get stronger growth. It needs to be felt more.
But have your priorities changed? Because that's all about getting Britain growing again, which was your central mantra coming into government, what you were talking about. But then in this budget, there seems to have been a shift. Some of the polling afterwards, YouGov did a poll that suggested people feel this is the most unfair budget since Liz Truss. There's another poll that suggests most people tick the box identifying themselves as a budget loser, with the winners seen as those on benefits. Is that fair, or is that what you want people at home to absorb?
I was just chatting to people here at the community centre we're at in Camden today, and these interest rate cuts will mean that homeowners, people with mortgages, will be paying a little bit less. It will help first-time buyers. And crucially, and this is often overlooked, it will help many businesses, because to grow your business, you often need to borrow to be able to invest in new machinery, on taking on a new worker. And so
but those are the same businesses that are complaining about national insurance hike and minimum wage and the employment's right bills. Those are the same businesses you're talking about there who've got a raft of complaints. I mean, pubs in particular are very irate. Are you going to be stepping into your local pub anytime soon over Christmas?
I think I'm going back to my constituency this evening, and I'm sure I will pop into a local bar or pub this weekend.
Do you hear what they're saying? Because how do you square that? Well, lots of small pubs say well, they face higher bills. Some of them, double the amount. And you've got a £4 billion support package. How does that work? Are they getting their calculations wrong?
So the last time that valuations of business rates were done was in 2021, and we were in the middle of the pandemic. And so the valuations for those properties during the pandemic collapsed. And so what is happening now is those valuations are returning to more normal levels. And so we're actually reducing the tax rate, but the value that is being taxed is higher. And some of the transitional support is beginning to unwind because we're no longer in the pandemic. So I do recognise that for hotels and pubs and for airports, business rates will, for some, be going up
but
this
double?
year. No,
are you worried
this
about
year,
that? Because pubs are such a part of the national identity of this country.
Year,
if they disappear...
The average increase for a pub this year, I think, would be something like 5%, and we're capping increases at 15% or £800 for smaller pubs. Over the next few years, there will be further increases as we move out of the pandemic era. We always had to move or come off that transitional
even if it
support.
means pub stores will close?
Well, look, let's see what happens. Obviously, we support and recognise the value of our local pubs.
Can you talk us through your thinking, your economic thinking? Because people might feel confused. You're clearly so proud of taking away the two-child benefit cap. The Prime Minister's talked about how proud he is. You've told me, you've told MPs. But then why wasn't it in the manifesto? Why did you take the whip away from 7 of your backbench colleagues?
Well, you know, Helia, that I've always said that we can only do things if they are costed and funded. And we didn't have a way going into the general election to fund that change. But we've worked hard in government this last year or so to find the funding. So in my first budget, I announced a review into gambling taxes. And in the budget this year, we increased the taxes on online betting and gaming, and that raises more than £1 billion a year.
Doesn't cover the welfare changes.
And at the same time, we've done more to crack down on tax avoidance. In fact, by the end of this Parliament, I think we'll be raising nearly £10 billion a year through better measures to collect the tax road. And as a result, we are now able to fund that. But that's the sort of difference. There's lots of things that I might like to do, but unless I can afford them, I can't do them. And that's the difference between the budget last year and the budget this year. We set things in train last year with that review of gambling taxes and the work that we've been doing at the Treasury around tax avoidance. And now those policies are funded and costed.
And on leadership, there's been endless speculation about leadership. Are you keen for Andy Burnham to rejoin the Commons backbenchers?
Andy is the Mayor of Greater Manchester. I'm working with him really closely on things like Northern Powerhouse
Sounds like you want him to stay there.
Well, he said that when he stood for Mayor that he would serve a full term, and I think that is the right thing to do. I've been an MP since 2010. Every election I commit to being to being an MP for that Parliament, and that's the commitment that Andy's made to the people of Greater Manchester as well. But you know, look, Keir became Prime Minister less than a year and a half ago. He was elected with a huge majority because for the first time in a long time, Labour was trusted with people's economic security and trusted with national security. And people put their trust in him to be our Prime Minister. And again,
do they
that's
trust
for a
him
Parliament.
still, you think?
Well, it would be up to for a general election for people to change the government, and people voted for Keir to be Prime Minister just over a year ago. We've just got started on the change that we want to bring to the country, and I think in the year ahead, both in terms of bringing down NHS waiting lists, lifting kids out of poverty, getting inflation down, putting more money in people's pockets, we're going to be delivering on that promise of change.
Do you get angry with all of this talk about leadership? I mean, do you think that people have become addicted to the political soap opera?
No, I think most people, it is very far from their minds. What are we, 7 days from Christmas? I can promise you, when I'm back in my constituency this evening and over the next few days, the number one topic of conversation is not going to be what's going on in the Parliamentary Labour Party or in the House of Commons.
And I want to ask you lastly about misogyny, because the Prime Minister is talking about his attempts to make sure he prevents violence against women by calling out misogyny early in schools and hospitals. Should we call it out in politics too?
Look, I really welcome what Keir and actually Jess Phillips, who's really led on this work, have done. We made a commitment in our manifesto that we're going to halve violence against women and girls, and we're determined to do that. I would just say on sort of politics, whatever gender you are, I would prefer politicians to be judged on what they do rather than the personal stuff that I think we have far too much of.
The leader of the opposition was very critical about you talking about your experience as a woman. But is there a risk then that we just suppress that discussion, which is a very healthy discussion to have?
I'm not going to sort of suppress my commitment creating a fairer and more equal society. I said when I became Chancellor that I would know that my time in office has been a success if there are working class kids from ordinary backgrounds who are living richer and more fulfilling lives, and if young women and girls felt that there no longer needed to be any ceiling on their ambition, that there's nothing that they can't achieve. And those are the two things that I believe in most passionately, and I do believe that tackling violence against women and girls, ensuring there are more economic opportunities available for women, is part and parcel of who I am. It's part of the reason I went into politics in the first place.
A New Year's resolution to end?
Oh gosh, I haven't thought of a New Year's resolution.
Maybe it's too early. You need to be kind of 3 days into the turkey before we start thinking about resolutions.
Yes. Well, I think, what did I say? Last year I wanted to make sure I ran more, and I've been pretty good despite all of the sort of pressures of the day. I do my regular running around the park, which I enjoy, and at work, I just want to focus on the job, to focus on growth, to get those trade deals across the line, to get spades in the ground in some of those big infrastructure projects. And when I go back to my constituency, people feeling a little bit better off than they were this time last year, because I recognise that is the biggest challenge that people face, and that's my priority too.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. Thank you for your time.